Welcome to Your Gal Friday, a podcast about female leaders, innovators, and rule breakers. Each week, your hosts, Leah and Phoebe, will shine a spotlight on an amazing gal and talk about what we can all learn from her. Brought to you by Gal's Guide to the Galaxy.
Welcome to Your Gal Friday. I am Dr. Leah Leach.
And I'm Phoebe Freer.
Today we are talking about a funny gal who created a cast of characters that have spanned over 50 years, not only in television, but in movies, on stage, and in books. From Ernestine to Frankie Bergstein, she's made us laugh and she made us think. Today we're talking about the life and legacy of one of the hardest working gals in show business, your gal, Lily Tomlin.
Oh my gosh, yay! So as you may know, I'm pretty bad with names. So when I heard the name Lily Tomlin and she was in the mix, I kind of had to look her up before I kind of knew who she was, which is kind of embarrassing because she is all over the place.
She's done a lot, yes.
She's done a lot. And it turns out her latest work, which is a Netflix show called Grace and Frankie, is a show that I've quickly fallen in love with. And I've watched all 4 seasons before even considering her for this podcast. And I also grew up watching The Magic School Bus. And so I squealed like a little girl when I realized that Lily Tomlin was the voice of Miss Frizzle. That was like the best day ever for me. So it turns out that Lily has found multiple ways to be a part of my life throughout everything, like growing up and adulthood. So this is going to be fun.
Right. She kind of pops into your life all the time and you're
all
just like,
the
oh, there she is again.
Oh, there she is again. And there she is again. Yeah, I love it. It's so fantastic.
Oh, I dig it. I was actually really excited that we picked Lily for Funny Gals because when I think of Lily, I think of somebody who has been around my whole life. I mean, I've seen her performances evolve and I've seen her range as an actor expand, but she's consistently working. She's a touchstone, really, and she's a touchstone for me. And she's also a role model for women because she is not immortalized in that 20s and 30s, perfect time period of perfect stardom. We've actually gotten to grow older with her. And the amazing thing about Lily, even before, I kind of dug into research, is her wide variety of characters. But for me, I've always felt that it's Lily. The deep kernel of all of the characters is Lily.
Totally.
Also, Lily didn't have like a reinvention, you know what I mean? Like a reimagining in a new time period sort of thing. She never tried to be anything she wasn't, which is ironic because we're talking about an actor.
Totally, yeah.
But at the same time, she seemed to pick projects that spoke to her personally. And it reflected in everything that I saw her in. I knew that it was personal for her. And she brought her own thing to it, too. She Lilyized it, basically, which I always loved. She's extremely talented, and she is persistent. I mean, I think she's one of, she would be in the Webster's definition of persistency. She's one of those. But even though I have grown up with Lily, and I kind of feel like she's a distant, like, great aunt who I never bothered to, like, get to know her backstory sort of thing. So I'm really glad for this time to learn more about her because, seriously, for our listeners out there, learn the stories not only of your great aunts, please do it, but also the people that you admire because it really does add appreciation and empathy, and it adds to your humanity. So, you can look at Lily's body of work and you can miss the genius if you're just looking at her item credits sort of thing. So we're going to look at her item credits, but we're also going to go behind the scenes. So it's going to be fun.
Totally. It is. Never before have I done research, and every bit of my research was laughter for Lily. It was so much fun. I know, right? Like you see her in an interview and like you're laughing and you don't really understand why, just because everything she's doing is so hilarious.
Yep, exactly. Whether it's a bit, whether it's an interview, whether it's her talking about her life, it's all peppered in comedy. It's so
It is.
lighthearted and free and fun that you just have a smile on your face.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, where did she start out?
Well, Lily was born as Mary Jean Tomlin on September 1st in 1939. She was born in Detroit, Michigan. Her mother was Lily May, spelled Lillie, and her father was Guy Tomlin. At an early age, Mary Jean actually adopted a version of her mother's name and called herself Lily, Lily, as we all know her, and she went by that name ever since. When Lily was a kid, she would observe her neighbors and mimic their characters in her first attempts at creating her own characters that she later played on television. This mimicking started at a very early age, and I can only imagine it being a strange world for her because people probably looked at her funny and kind of thought it was abnormal until she was able to use those gifts in show business.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine growing up as a kid like that, or I can imagine growing up as a kid like that, and just, you don't understand why you're able to mimic people. Like, that seems like a very odd talent, but she completely stretched it and grew it and used it to her advantage, which is admirable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, according to the She Made It website, her father was a factory worker, a tool maker, and he drank and gambled, and he often took Lily with him to the local taverns when she was very young. There she would be called out to entertain the patrons with renditions of Shoe Fly Pie and other hits of the day. Her family bought their first television set when she was 10 years old, and she spent hours soaking up the antics of Lucille Ball, Jean Carroll, and other comedic pioneers, which is understandable and completely awesome, especially since we just covered Lucille Ball in our previous episode. So if you haven't checked that out, you should go check that one out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I can totally see it too, by the way. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, totally. You can totally see it in everything, really. But you can see even career choices that she made kind of paralleled with Lucille Ball's too, I feel.
Right. Exactly. And the bravery too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. An additional inspiration to her comedy, it came from her brother. His name was Richard, and she would often stay up late into the night with him, giggling and dressing up and mimicking other people who lived in their neighborhood, just like we said before. And after high school, Lily, who had always been fascinated with biology, enrolled in the program at Wayne State University. She said, quote, "What I really wanted was to have autonomy in those years. You either had to be exceptional or be married. I never wanted to be dependent on anybody, and I was darn good at science." Not to mention the fact that her long-term partner, she wouldn't marry until later in life anyway, so she wasn't bluffing when she said that.
Exactly.
Okay, so Anna Lark, she auditioned for a small role in the college production of The Mad Woman of Chaillot, and she found herself surprised and invigorated by her own improv ability. She said, quote, "Not only did I revel in the attention, but I also thought, gee, it would be great if I could make a living doing this." And she did just that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, she did. So after leaving college, Lily moved to New York City, and she continued doing stand-up. She studied at the HB studio in Greenwich Village. Now, Greenwich in the 50s and 60s was an amazing time for stand-up comedy. Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, and Nichols and May were there in Greenwich at the time. Comedy was becoming this blend of character-based jokes and gradually becoming political as well. And Lily soaked all this in, and she worked on creating a variety of characters. Now, her first big break was a monologue on the Merv Griffin Show, where she created a character that was addicted to eating anything that was made of rubber. Now, this bit, it makes you lean in, it makes you listen, and it makes you wonder where in the world she is going with this joke. And you just want to know like how it's going to turn out. It's a really funny bit. It's also intellectual. It's also layers deep. Kind of talks about addiction in a certain sense, but you're laughing the whole time as it's happening. So it's memorable. It's different. And Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In came calling because of it. So now Laugh-In had been going on for about almost 2 years when Lily joined the cast. The show embraced and made fun of hippie culture. It did not shy away from politics or innuendos at all. Lily made her debut December of 1969 with a snorting, gossipy telephone operator named Ernestine. She was an overnight sensation, with people often repeating the catchphrases of, "Is this the party to whom I'm speaking?" and her "one ringy dingy, two ringy dingies." Lily was 30 years old when she absolutely hit the big time. Now, Lily would stay on Laugh-In until its end in 1973, and she would create more characters like Edith Ann, the 5.5-year-old, and Mrs. Judith Beasley, who was the good consumer advice advocate. Those are just to name a few. She made a lot of characters. So I grew up watching Laugh-In and SCTV on Nick at Night. I highly recommend, if you love comedy, to watch both those shows. They're really,
That's
really
awesome.
good.
That is fantastic. And I gotta say that Edith Ann, the 5.5-year-old, that's pretty much the only character that I'm kind of like, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I like this. But the rest of Lily Tomlin, I'm just like, no, she's brilliant. Like, yeah.
Edith Ann goes on for, it's one of those things where it takes you a while, but eventually Edith Ann will say something that will speak to your inner 5.5-year-old, and you're like, yeah, no, I got it. And then you just fall in love with it. So it takes a while. It's not joke. It's not everything is profound and glamorous, but there will be something that will connect you, and you'll be like, oh, Edith. Yeah, no, I'm 5.5 again.
That's fantastic.
She grew on me.
I love it. Now, in 1971, Jane Wagner meets Lily Tomlin for the first time. After watching the after-school TV special JT, written by Jane Wagner, Lily invited Jane to her house in LA to collaborate on Lily's comedy LP record album titled And That's the Truth. They've been inseparable ever since, both professionally and personally. They were/are a dynamic duo who have collaborated together on many, many projects. They became close personally and became a couple. While their relationship was an open secret, they never made an effort to hide it. So it also wasn't really public knowledge for many years. Lily says back in 1975 that the Time magazine tried to bribe her into making a huge public coming out statement. She said, quote, "I was more offended than anything that they thought we'd make a big deal, but that was 1975. It would have been a hard thing to do at the time." The pair have written many successful works together, including Lily's Tony Award-winning show, The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, and The Incredible Shrinking Woman and Moment to My Moment, as well as Grammy-nominated albums Modern Scream and On Stage. Lily stated later in 2008 that everybody in the industry was certainly aware of my sexuality and of Jane. In interviews, I always reference Jane and talk about Jane, but they don't always write about it. I couldn't find a date where they started officially becoming a couple. But it was also but it was also mentioned that some couples would say, "Oh, we're writing partners," to cover up the fact that they were personal partners, but there was a source that specifically said that wasn't the case. They legitimately worked on all of these projects together, and they were personal partners, which is really cool that they could manage to do both and for so long.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It gives partner a double meaning. Because it's work partner and life partner.
Absolutely.
So it was one of those things where it's like they weren't hiding it or even lying or anything like that. It's just partner. Have it mean whatever you want it to mean because both are true.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Me too. So Lily was talented in many aspects in show business, including recording comedy albums. In 1972, Lily created her first comedy album titled This Is a Recording, and it contained telephone conversations with her character Ernestine. The album hit number 15 on Billboard Hot 200, and it remained as of 2011. It became the highest charting album ever by a solo comedian. She earned a Grammy Award that year for Best Comedy Recording. Lily's second album, And That's the Truth, was nearly as successful. It featured a collection of monologues as Edith Ann. It peaked at number 41 on the chart and earned Lily another Grammy nomination. So Lily's third comedy album, 1975's Modern Scream, a parody of movie magazines and celebrity interviews, featured her performing as multiple characters, including Ernestine, Edith Ann, Judith, and Susie. And she has been involved in a number of feminist and gay-friendly film productions, including this one. She pokes fun at straight actors who make a point of distancing themselves from their gay and lesbian characters. I think it's really cool that in media, she has never had this big coming out or anything like that, but I feel like, maybe this is weird to say, but I feel like she does it in the normal, subtle way that we all maybe should, like supporting LGBT and all that stuff. Like, she's not like, oh, I'm this, blah, blah, blah. She's just like, no, I'm going to participate in this stuff because this is my life, you know?
Right.
If that
this
makes
is who
any
I
sense.
am. This is what I do.
Right.
It's for you to determine how you feel about it, sort of thing. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I think because she's always kind of been herself. She wasn't pretending to be a character. She never had to do that.
Right. That's so true. Lily made her debut in drama in Robert Altman's Nashville, for which she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She played Lene Reese, a straight-laced gospel-singing mother of 2 deaf children who has an affair with a womanizing country singer. This jump-started her career outside of comedy.
Now, the later half of the 70s were just as busy as the first half for Lily. She was on a roll. Now, I feel like I must give in full disclosure, I was born in 1977. So when I noticed that Lily did her Edith Ann character on Sesame Street around the time that I was of Sesame Street watching age, my inner 5-year-old was just delighted because I put together that this is most likely where I first saw her and first connected with her was probably Sesame Street and then later Laugh-In on reruns. I love that character because it's a perfect fit for Sesame Street. Of an adult pretending to be a kid. And oh my gosh. So Lily would then bounce from television to movies to Broadway. So in 1977, Lily did a one-woman show called Appearing Nightly. And from our research, it states that she was the first solo woman to do this. And I had to look it up because you know what? Google is sometimes wrong. So I just had to look it up. But it really kind of depends on how you want to split hairs when it comes to one-woman show. Because the year before that, there was a one-woman show on Broadway starring Julie Harris, and it was called The Belle of Amherst, and it was a historical play about Emily Dickinson with Julie playing 14 different roles. But it wasn't stand-up, you know what I mean? It wasn't what Lily was doing. So I just love to be fair because, you know, Broadway people love their facts and statistics.
Oh, yeah.
So Lily's show was billed as an evening of character comedy, and it's really closer to a stand-up show than a play, but the world really took notice, and her performance won a special Tony for Lifetime Achievement. Now, little did they know that we were going to have a lot more Lily past 1977.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a serious groundswell of love. Lily was also on the cover of Time magazine with the headline, New Queen of Comedy. Look at that. Yes. So Lily followed up with another comedy tour and a comedy album to go right along with it. She made an appearance on Saturday Night Live, and also she was a player on Paul Simon's special that also won an Emmy. But then she took on this new job, a job that perhaps got her working, I don't know, 9 to 5?
Okay, that was pretty good. 1980 was a career-changing year for Lily. This is when she co-starred in, you guessed it, Leah, 9 to 5, which she played a secretary named Violet Newstead. She co-stars with Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton in seeking revenge on their boss, Franklin M. Hart Jr. The film was one of the year's top grossing films. 9 to 5 is a timeless musical, and created lasting friendships between Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, which we will later explore and talk more about. In 1981, she took a stab at science fiction comedy, starring in The Incredible Shrinking Woman, which is a fascinating concept, and also recorded a TV special. With The Incredible Shrinking Woman, I was just watching an episode of Grace and Frankie, which, again, we'll talk more about, and she has a line in it where she was saying something about, it's not like I can shrink right now and get away from all my problems, although that technology is coming, we just have to wait it out. And then I was reading about The Incredible Shrinking Woman. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
There it is. Inside reference to another Lily project.
It is.
I love
It was great. It was really great.
That was the movie that gave me nightmares as a kid. Not because of her performance, because she shrinks down and almost gets eaten by a garbage disposal, and it freaked me out.
Oh yeah, totally. It would freak me out as a kid too. I didn't watch it, but I know if I watched it as a kid, that's the type of thing that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that freaked me out as a kid, and I don't even remember why.
Yes.
It's just like, ugh.
Because the things that aren't terrifying at a normal size would be terrifying when you're teeny tiny. Yeah.
It would be, yeah. I just love the reference to previous work stuff. I need to rewatch all of Grace and Frankie now, and so I can catch more references, and then
perfect. Sounds like a done deal.
Yeah, done. I'm already rewatching the 4th season, so I'm.
Oh, perfect.
I had to put it on in the background of researching because I was like, this is too perfect, and then I did that, and I was like, are you kidding? This is great.
Serendipitous.
Oh yes. So here's something I found super cool and really fascinating. Lily was one of the first female comedians to break out in male drag with her characters. In 1982, she premiered Purvis Hawkins, who is a black rhythm and blues soul singer. He has a mustache and a beard and a close-cropped afro hairstyle, dressed in a 3-piece suit. She used very little, if any, skin-darkening cosmetics as part of the character, and depended on stage lighting to create the effect of darker skin. To imagine the kind of ruckus she must have or could have caused, both by being one of the first female drag, but also playing a dark-skinned man, that is very admirable. She is very brave for coming out and doing that.
That is bold and daring, but...
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
It worked.
Go for it, girl.
Yeah.
She did it with heart and sensitivity is why I feel like it worked for me.
Totally.
Yeah, because you just she was that character.
She was.
And that's how that character needed to be
right, and there was no
visually look.
Definitely, and there was no mocking about it. It was just like, no, this is this person. It was like, no, I believe you.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
exactly.
It was very cool. I, for one, have a female friend who is a drag queen, which is a very similar world to what Lily was doing, and it brings me so much joy to see the diversity and acceptance in these crafts. Last year, I actually had the chance to go to Pride and see her perform, and it was just really empowering to me to watch my friends do this and empower themselves. So
absolutely.
It's really cool. And I did find a video online of Lily performing, and it is just so much fun watching her. I mean, she's like you said, she's very much in the character. She's just all in, and it's very cool to watch.
Yeah.
I admire Lily so much for her ability to perform in one-woman shows. She literally performed on Broadway solo. No co-stars. She only had her own characters, and she obviously rocks it because she was in not just one, but 2 one-woman shows, and they went on tour for years. She starred in a Broadway show, The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, which was written by her longtime life partner and writer-producer Jane Wagner. The show won her a Tony Award and was made into a feature film in 1991, which, yes, Lily also starred in, and that was also a one-woman show. The cast list is 1 person long.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to go watch it because that's just incredible.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I've watched a whole bunch of clips from it because I haven't seen it all the way through in decades.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. It's very, I would say, Robert Altman style later, which I'm going to talk more about. Yeah.
Wee, yay. Lily revived the show for a run on Broadway in 2000, which she toured the country through mid-2002. In 1989, she won the Sarah Siddons Award for her work in Chicago theater. She wrapped up the 80s by being in the movie Big Business, which is a movie loosely based on the Comedy of Error by Shakespeare. Like, every decade is just packed full of so much work.
Right. And it's variants because it's TV, it's movie, it's theater, it's tours, it's appearance. It's so many different things.
Right.
But they're all quite interesting.
They
and
are.
Also,
They're
I had
all
no idea that
fascinating.
Big Business was based on Shakespeare. I did not know that, and I saw that movie.
Yeah, I love actually adaptation movies.
I do too. Yeah.
I love adaptation movies. They're just fascinating to me, and I love making them.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Oh, I love that. So, yes. Well, the 90s continued suit with a mix of movies and TVs appearances. And it started off the year with the movie version of The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life that Phoebe was talking about. Then Lily teamed up with Robert Altman for 2 films. So the 90s were a very daring time for independent filmmakers and independent film companies as well. They were getting huge traction, and they started playing around with story structure and narrative style. Now, Robert Altman was a major contributor of the complicated storylines. What he would do is he would tell various stories, but he would tie them together with a common theme. The characters were dark, and most of the time these characters were very, very hard to love, but they had an element of truth and reality to them. Like you knew them. They were your neighbors. They were your relatives. Like you got it. So his films were slightly organized chaos. That's always kind of how it felt. And I always felt like the actors looked like they were just having a great time with this organized chaos. So Lily played herself in Robert Altman's The Player, and then she played a waitress in Shortcuts. Now, if you've never seen The Player or Shortcuts, the best way to describe them is if there was an actor who was working in the 90s, they were definitely probably almost always in one or both of these movies, because I always felt like Robert Altman opened his address book and called every star he had ever met in his entire life, and they all said yes. If somebody wasn't in one of those 2 movies, I always assumed that they were either already booked, they were on a different set, or Altman didn't like them. That's kind of what I went with. Because so many people are in both of these movies. Now, with Lily and Robert working together on Nashville, of course she was going to be in them, and she was freaking hilarious and great playing herself and playing a character that was in love with Tom Waits. And I'm always in love with Tom Waits, so I completely understood.
That's fantastic.
So from Altman, Lily turned to animated television, and she teamed up with Rugrats producer Sherry Gunther. She made an Edith Ann cartoon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Rugrats.
I know.
I grew up on Rugrats too. Okay, sorry.
And it looks very much like Rugrats. It's the same style of animation, the Edith Ann special. And it's also written by Jane Wagner as well. Now, the other thing that's interesting is Sherry Gunther, who produced it, she also produced the early Simpsons episodes, Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, and Family Guy. So Lily was in really good hands with her animated TV show.
Wow.
Yep. But that wasn't the only animated TV show that Lily was working on at that time. She was also voicing Miss Frizzle in the Magic School Bus series.
Miss Frizzle, she's my hero. She's like
Exactly.
she's my hero. She's other than my real teacher, Miss Frizzle's my favorite teacher.
There you go. I like that. I love it. The Magic School Bus series was based on the successful Scholastic book series, and Broadcasting and Cable magazine said that the show was, quote, among the highest rated PBS shows for school-aged children. So the show was designed for kids to learn about science in a fun way, and they did. Phoebe's an example of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I Most definitely. And fun fact, there is a character in Magic School Bus named Phoebe. And I was like, oh, but Phoebe's kind of like she's kind of a know-it-all, but she's kind of shy, but she's kind of goes with the flow. And I'm like, I'm not like her. No, I'm definitely like Phoebe.
Right.
But I'm also I mean, yeah, it was pretty funny. But I was like,
it sounds like that is your Princess Leia for me.
it really is. It really is. I'm like,
'Cause
oh,
I rejected
shoot.
being a Princess Leia, but I am a Princess Leia.
Oh, yeah. I rejected being Phoebe from Magic School Bus, but now I accept that that is my true identity.
It takes some time. It really
Yeah.
does. We come around.
We do. We do.
I love it. Now, those also weren't the only TV shows that Lily was working on at that time.
Oh, my gosh.
She did some one-time episodes on Frasier and on Homicide: Life on the Street. But her major role was being added to Murphy Brown. So when the character Miles was the executive producer on Murphy Brown, and his character left the fictional TV show of FYI. So Lily was cast as the new boss. So Murphy Brown was a major show. And again, she was doing this while she was doing her animated shows. It's just amazing to me. But Murphy Brown was a huge influence on many women. And the show had its controversy. I mean, the peak was because one certain vice president, Dan Quayle, was on the campaign trail in 1992, and he started talking about family values, and he brought up Murphy Brown as an example. He said, quote, "It doesn't help matters when primetime TV has Murphy Brown mocking the importance of fathers by bearing a child and calling it just another lifestyle choice." Well, the next day, he then said a different statement, so it kind of contradicted. He then said, quote, "I have the highest respect for single mothers. They are true heroes." Now, there was a media storm, and there was feminism and politics taking center stage, all based around this TV character choosing to give birth and raising a baby alone. Now, the show, kind of in a very will show you feud style, incorporated the real life news story into the fictional news story as
Whoa.
well. And the character started making fun of the then vice president. So it was this another blend of politics and character and comedy. And Lily was right in there too. It was quite amazing.
So Lily just keeps on rolling with her career in acting and in movies and taking on her one-man show back onto Broadway. And from 2002 until 2006, she starred in the show called West Wing. Now, West Wing went on for many, many seasons, and it starred Martin Sheen as the president. And he later co-stars in Grace and Frankie, just like Lily Tomlin. So I imagine that that's where they met. And
Most likely, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they later, of course, work together. It just blows my mind how show business is all connected. And it's really fun to watch the careers of these people and how their lives twirl together. I mean, it really makes you see the humanness behind it all, if you ask me. The 2000s were full of movies and TV shows, including Pink Panther 2 and Desperate Housewives. All of this for Lily. She just really would not stop, and it's really fascinating to watch it all come together and see where she is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And who she's teaming back up with too, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. But Leah, what about Jane?
Now, Lily and Jane, they've been together for 42 years in 2013. So according to Pink News, they interviewed Lily, and Lily said, quote, "My mother would have died, literally, if she had lived to see me come out." So she waited. So when Prop 8 in California was overturned, making same-sex marriage legal in California, Lily and Jane said, "I do" in a private ceremony. The two then maybe on a honeymoon project. That's kind of how I like to think of it, because it was the same year they got married. They worked together on a project that was a documentary, and it was called An Apology to Elephants. And both gals produced the film. Jane wrote it, and Lily narrated it. It showed on HBO, and it won an Emmy. Now, the documentary showcased mankind's long history with elephants and the problem with captivity of zoos and circuses. And it's really heartfelt and heartbreaking at the same time.
Right.
And you
And
love
I-
elephants.
Oh, I love elephants. I really appreciate that they did this. I don't know that I could watch it because it's gonna break my heart. It's gonna break my heart. But my film company is called Elephant Trunk Films, so I'm like, no, this is the best thing. It warms my heart that they did this. I'm sorry, I don't think I can watch it because I already I know what they're getting at, and I'm like, it already makes me feel bad.
You're already woke to the idea. You already know, and you're like, love and cherish my elephant. So yes,
exactly.
You're already on board. Yes,
absolutely.
Perfect. Well, in 2014, Lily was a Kennedy Center honoree, with Jane Lynch performing her famous monologue about the girl who was addicted to eating rubber. Garrison Keillor, Kate McKinnon, Reba McEntire, and Jane Fonda all paid tribute to Lily and her characters. It was lovely, it was heartfelt, and it was funny. So now,
sweet.
Around this time of 2014, the co-creator of Friends, Marta Kaufman, was having lunch with the head at Skydance Television, Marcy Ross. Just passing conversation, Marcy mentioned that both Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda were wanting to do television. Marta thought she meant together. I mean, the two were in 9 to 5 together, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't you think, together?
Right.
Well, Marcy actually meant individually. They just both happened to be looking at the same time. So Marta asked Lily and Jane if they would be interested in working together, and they said yes.
Yay!
So in a Hollywood Reporter interview, Marta said about the creation of the show, quote, "We were searching for a way to explore aging and coming into your own at a certain point in your life. Afterwards, I was sitting in the car with Hannah K.S., my development executive, and she said, 'What if their husbands fall in love with each other?' And that was it. We were off and running."
Oh, that's so great.
So that's kind of how the show came to be, really. It's quite amazing.
It's a great pitch. Like, it's so...
It really
it's
is.
such a great pitch. Like, you can do so much with that just from that. What if their husbands fell in love with each other? It's like, oh my gosh, where are you going to go with this?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you started off with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, and it's like, I'm listening.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's their husbands fall in love with each other. All right, go on.
All right,
You
keep
know what
going.
I mean? Like, yes.
Tell me more.
It's a perfect pitch.
It really is.
But now, even with a brilliant pitch like that, Hollywood is weird. But it was pitched just about everywhere. But it was picked up by Netflix. And so now it's in its 4th season. The 5th season is coming next year. At first, actually, Jane Fonda thought it wouldn't relate to young people. The TV show, it's bold, it's quirky, and it's heartfelt. And there are lots of moments. But for some odd reason, young people have really gravitated towards it. And they have absolutely loved it and binged all of the episodes. Now, I started watching it because we were covering Lily.
I tried to push you to it a little bit.
Exactly. Well, it's also one of those things. If Phoebe's got a recommendation, I'm in. It's one of the, all right, Phoebe says, check it out. We're covering it for the show. I'm in. I'm absolutely loving it. I think I'm on season 3 is where I'm at. I've had a very busy May. But I'm loving it. And you know what? Maybe for me, because Marta's name is on it, and I just finished rewatching Friends with my youngest daughter.
I've watched Friends like 4 times through now.
That one is also fun to binge. But when I watch Grace and Frankie, I can't help but see elements of Monica and Rachel in Grace. And then I see Phoebe Buffay in Frankie. It's one of those things where I imagine this alternative universe where this is the Friends gals in their 70s.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I love it more because it's
that
like
is
Friends
so
is
sweet.
continuing and it's that same feel, but it's a different storyline. So, yes. But you have been watching this, pretty much from the beginning, and you've also watched all of it as well.
Oh, yes, I've watched all of it. I started watching Grace and Frankie about 8 months ago, and like Leah said, their husbands fell in love. They each have 2 children, right? Each of the couples. So there's 4 kids total. And I just fell in love with the show. I binged it like crazy, and then by the time the 4th season came out, I was ready for it, and I just kept watching all the way through it. I was like, this is the best. It's so great. I found it fascinating, like you said, Leah, that they didn't think it would relate to younger people. And in fact, when I first started watching it, I thought really long and hard as to why I did relate so much and why I loved
Right.
watching these older couples who I supposedly had nothing in common with because they're so much older than me and of a different generation. But
They're at a
one of
different
the,
stage in their life too.
exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like, but I love it to the point of I feel like they're part of my own family. So I wanted to explore why I felt that way. I thought maybe the writers thought about our generation too, or my generation
Mhm.
too, potentially. Because you see, Grace and Frankie, they all have 4 kids. They're all in their late 20s and early 30s, which makes them more relatable to me. But having them mix in the older generation, it shows that life can be complicated, twisted, fun, and in all stages of life, it can be all of these things. So I
Right.
have their kids that I can relate to in my own personal life, but I have Grace and Frankie who I can relate to in my almost my spirit on a spiritual level, on a like on completely different levels that has nothing to do with your age, but everything to do with I just want to be a person. I want to learn from you. I want to
Mhm.
understand that it's okay to be myself. Like all of these things, a big part of Grace and Frankie is they recognize that they're getting older and they deal with it in their own ways. And
Right.
they're old enough and in a part of their life where they're not trying to prove themselves to other people anymore like people my age are. We're just
Right.
constantly trying to prove ourselves. Whereas Grace and Frankie are fighting hard to keep a hold of themselves, which I feel my generation needs to learn more from because proving yourself, you only have to prove yourself to yourself at the end
Right.
of the day,
Absolutely. Well said. Yes,
you
yes.
know? So I feel like Grace and Frankie really, really helps my generation with doing that, I guess, and being themselves and being okay with themselves and see themselves growing older gracefully. Like, or
Right.
not gracefully.
Exactly.
It does, like, you do
And
it
it
your
doesn't
own
matter,
way.
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes. There's
exactly.
a path for everyone.
Exactly. And it's just, it's beautiful. It's really great. It really feels like, it feels like coming home, really. You have your own little family that you come home to that you watch on television.
Right, exactly. It was one of those things where it's like when I read that they weren't sure if it was going to work for the younger generation and a lot of the younger generation is watching Netflix. I was like, yeah, okay, but you're believing the stereotype that nobody watches older women, you know what I mean?
Right,
But
yeah.
when I think of it, I think of when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Star Wars. I was a kid and I was watching people go on an adventure. And the
Right.
idea was I can watch them go on an adventure so that I am prepared for my own adventure. Well,
Totally.
I can watch 2 older women in their retirement years start a brand new business to get me ready for my older years of who knows, maybe starting another
Exactly.
business. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
exactly.
it's the same thing. So whether you're, whether you're a 5-year-old kid and you're watching 20, 30-year-olds have an adventure, or whether you're 20, 30-year-olds and you're watching a 70-year-old have
Exactly.
adventures,
Yeah.
it's
exactly.
universal.
It's
Yeah.
so true. I love it. It's so true.
I should say, not surprisingly, that
Mhm.
both Lily and Jane were nominated for Emmys.
Oh yeah, they
for
deserve
Grace
it.
and
They're
Frankie.
so good. They're
I think they're
good.
so good. I think it's a no-brainer, but at the same time, nothing is guaranteed.
Right. So no, there's that.
Now, also, both of the gals have been politically active their entire adult lives. Now, Lily and Jane actually held a rally against Wells Fargo in Los Angeles in support of Standing Rock. They were also both at the Women's March in Los Angeles with I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, Helen Reddy.
Oh, that's so great.
I
also-
know, right?
There was a TED Talk that I saw with both of the ladies, and they
Yes.
took the time to take their TED Talk to talk about fossil fuels and all this stuff that they felt passionate about. And I was like, wow,
Yes.
they are killing it. It's
Right.
really cool. It's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I need to get off my butt. Like,
Right? They're on it, and oh boy, I've got some work to do.
right, exactly. Exactly.
Now, if you're not aware, because Phoebe and I are very aware of this, Hollywood
Right.
has this weird way of recycling material.
Right. Right.
So now sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. Well, there are rumors of a 9 to 5 remake happening, and the original gals of Dolly and Jane and Lily making an appearance in the remake. Murphy Brown is being rebooted, and it actually has a fall release date on CBS. It has the original cast, and that would be the original starting cast because Lily was a replacement. So no word on Lily yet, but you know what? Yeah, she'll probably show up.
Yeah, probably.
If the timing's right, I think that would be really, really cool. But last year, Netflix launched The Magic School Bus Rides Again,
Woohoo!
and it has Lily as the voice of Miss Frizzle. She's now Professor Frizzle,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
passes the bus keys to her younger sister, Fiona, and Fiona is voiced by Kate McKinnon, who I adore.
That's fantastic. And her name's Fiona. We both have the same nickname, Fee.
Look
Yay.
at that.
I love it.
Oh, too wonderful. So now the show actually has amazing voice talents, the reboot of Magic School Bus. It has Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, Nathan Fillion, but I will admit that I freaked out a little bit when I saw that real-life astronaut and doctor Mae Jemison plays a character on the space mission episode.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I was so
great.
happy. Yes, because I talk about her in school presentations.
Right.
And we talked about her on the Bessie Coleman episode.
We did.
So, yes. So, woohoo. So, I keep going, keep doing awesome things, Netflix, with the Magic School Bus. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
So, in 2017, Lily was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Screen Actors Guild. She gave a very funny but insightful speech after seeing her retrospective of her career. And she even said after seeing that, she wished she had done more.
How?
This is coming from,
How?
I know, right? This is coming from a gal who, when we look at her performances, it spans 53 years and there is barely a break in a release, in a tour, in an appearance, and she wishes she did more.
That's
right?
crazy. That is crazy.
I know. That's a special kind of person. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. That is. That's what me and my mom call an overachiever, but in all the best ways.
Right, exactly. Yes, she likes to work. She gets a
I love
thrill out of it. She she gives and she gets back from it. You know what I mean? So you want to keep that going. So in the Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award, she gave out 5 wonderful pieces of advice to young people. And because we're all about life lessons and legacy, I thought I would share these 5.
Oh,
The
totally.
first one is, don't leave your house when you're drunk.
Fair.
The second one is, don't be anxious about missing an opportunity. Behind every failure is an opportunity that someone wishes they would have missed.
Aw.
Number 3 is, beware of any enterprise that requires new clothing. Now, I thought that one was quite deep because you kind of you have to take a minute and really think about it, because if you have to get new clothing, maybe you're pretending to be somebody you're not.
Ooh.
See? Do you see what I'm saying? Yes, you got to think about that one. That one's deep. It's deep. Number 4, live your life so that when you are being honored for your achievements, the people called upon to make auditory remarks can feel reasonably honest about their comments.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Oh my gosh.
So true. So true.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And number 5, thank the people whose shoulders you stand on. And Lily thanked Jane because she said that is where she stands the tallest.
Aw,
and I
that's
thought
so
that was beautiful.
sweet.
Isn't that
Aw.
sweet?
I love a good love story. I am a sucker.
Yes, exactly. Oh, so I thought that was a good way to segue into, what legacy do we think Lily is building or thinking about leaving behind? Because she is still rocking it.
Oh yeah, she's still rocking it. Oh yeah. So like Miss Frizzle would say, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. I
like it.
love that. That has been my
Yeah.
life motto since I was a kid, and it's not changed, and it's really
It's
cool.
a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah. Wow, legacy. It feels like she wants to leave so much. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like she's so full of life and character. I feel like she just wants to give all she's got to the world, basically. I feel like she's really an advocate, not just for human rights and stuff, but for the truth in people, for
Right.
truth in the way we live and the way you are. And I feel like in a way that could be part of her legacy, but it's hard to pinpoint what I think she would want to leave behind. I feel like she just wants to leave behind so much love and so much of her talent and support and characters. She has these characters that need to live on past her. So
Oh yeah.
I really think that. And it's really cool that she has taken an interest in kids and the younger generation, and to leave behind quotes like "take chances, make mistakes, and get messy." Like, I really think that just sums it up. Like, anything you see of Lily Tomlin, that's not just Miss Frizzle, that's every character that she creates. So I think
Yeah.
if you were to put it in one sentence, that's the sentence I would choose.
Yes. So oh gosh. So I was thinking about it too, because you know what, the legacy question is always hard. It's harder
yeah.
when they're still with us, because
Oh
they're
yeah,
not
totally.
done.
They're not done.
Still, they're still thinking about, like, what haven't I done? What haven't I left behind? What knowledge haven't I passed on? So, you know what I mean? So it's always more difficult, but I'm going to go with my gut and say, with the amount of work that she's done and the amount of work she is still doing at this moment, I think there's going to be far more Lily. So
yeah.
I'm eager for it. She may be in her 70s, but she is still showing us how to build a legacy. And I think that's
Totally.
great. I did start to think, how important is legacy to her? I feel like maybe the work is more important. A kind of do the work and let the historians figure it out later. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to throw spaghetti at the wall. I'm going to do the things that, I'm interested in. So she knows why she picked a project. She didn't have to prove it to anybody but herself. And she was a trailblazer, and she is a touchstone. And we're very lucky to have her, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
To grow old with her and to see her try things and, to continue that. At the Kennedy Center honors, Jane Lynch and Kate McKinnon both gave props to Lily for being their quintessential role model. And they both talked about how they tried to mimic Lily Tomlin when they were younger. So there's one for certain legacy, is we probably wouldn't have Jane Lynch and Kate McKinnon without Lily. So
that's so sweet.
Yes. So what did you learn from Lily?
I learned to take chances.
Yay!
I'm just like,
take those chances.
Take those chances. Honestly, like, it seems silly, but like, even though I love Grace and Frankie, I love everything that Lily's done that I've seen. It comes back to, like, I don't remember every episode of Magic School Bus. But what I do remember is Miss Frizzle giving everybody ambition and gumption to go for it. And I feel like I carry that with me every day. And it was just instilled into me as a kid, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. Like, I am terrified of making mistakes. But Miss Frizzle says, go. It's okay. You'll learn from it. It's all right. So that's what I learned from Lily, because I feel like that is just what she was trying to teach me as a kid, and what she succeeded in teaching me as a kid.
That's what stuck. That's what got to your DNA.
That's exactly.
Of you. Yeah.
And it's part of me. It's been part of me for a long time. So it's like that's what stuck.
Right. Oh, love it. So honestly, here's what I got from Lily. And it's really kind of more today's Lily, It's that old adage of grow old gracefully. Yeah, forget that. Don't worry about it. Just grow old. Keep doing your own thing.
Right.
Not all of us get the privilege of growing old or the ability to keep working at the thing we love to do. So just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Lily simply doesn't have that thing that some women have when they get older. They start to get smaller. They start to worry about their looks. They start to worry about being an older woman, and that they need to kind of shrink away. So, you basically take yourself out of the game when you start to worry about that. And
Right.
Lily stays in the game. She has always stayed in the game. She works hard, she listens deeply, and she sees the world as it is, and she doesn't apologize for it. And she doesn't
Right.
apologize for it because she doesn't have to. She
Right.
accepts it as it is. She's always been unapologetically herself, and she also embraces people for who they are, not who they think they are or who they should
Right.
be. She straight sees you and embraces you. She also pushes you to think deep. She really does, and it sneaks up on you. It's kind of like, oh man, Lily, I didn't expect you to make me to think right now, but I'm really
Right.
thinking now.
Yeah, totally.
And she gets you to listen clearer. To take the time to really listen to a character and try to find the truth in them. And you learn from these complex characters that she's created. And I think she does this because she wants to show us that we're all in this together. And I would have to
Totally.
say, and that's the truth.
Perfect.
Well, that wraps it up for us. Next week, we continue, Funny Gals, with the most amazing comeback stories. It is so incredible that you might not even remember that in our lifetime, there was a time we almost lost Ellen DeGeneres. So in the meantime, we leave you with this quote from Lily Tomlin. Don't be afraid of missed opportunities. Behind every failure is an opportunity somebody wishes they had missed.
For more information about this week's Gal, or to check out our previous episodes, visit galsguide.org. To support the show, visit the Gals Guide Patreon page. We love our patrons and offer exclusive perks and behind-the-scenes access for as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much for subscribing to Your Gal Friday.